Hi, we are going to get started here now, so everybody can get a break. So, how are you?
Hello.
How's the sound here? Can everybody hear us okay?
Hello.
Okay, on behalf of Carolyn and I, we would like to thank everyone who's come here tonight. It means so much to us. And also to Mike Murphy for organizing this event. He's organized many. To Mike Blackmore up there doing all the film work. To everyone we shared this stage with in the Kineto Theater this evening. We're going to take you a ways back. We're going to go back 100 plus years tonight with you and talk about a little bit of history. Now, George W. Harvey, nicknamed Bum Harvey, lived here on the 3rd floor of the Kineto Theater in the 1920s into the 1930s. Now, they call him Forrest's Mystery Man. There's not a lot known about him, so I will share with you what we know about George W. Harvey. He was born in 1860 in Wales. He went to Cambridge University, Oxford University, in 1880. He graduated Oxford and he went and worked on the London Stock Exchange. He left the London Stock Exchange and he went to Chile, South America for 4 years, which I'm quite certain was to paint. And then in 1890 he emigrated to Canada. The 1901 census says that George Harvey was a painter. Now, how he ended up in Forest, well, we're going to see. But local lore says that George Harvey was intelligent, artistic. He spoke several languages. He did live here for several years in the Kineto Theater. He was utilized as a bouncer at times or security. And he also worked part-time in a law firm. Now, when I add this up, and the fact that I know one of these paintings in the room is his, I cannot get the thoughts of this man out of my head. I couldn't. It's a story waiting to be told with those few facts, and I would like to respectfully tell his story, like a storyteller. But it really never came out until I saw the set list for tonight, and I saw Storyteller Carolyn Kineto. Now, I had heard Carolyn before. So it was time for me to unravel these thoughts, and Carolyn and I met at the library, and I said, do you want to maybe collaborate tonight? So Jessica, a very resourceful librarian at the Forest Library, immersed us in local history. And we left the library that night and stepped into the history-soaked streets of Forest with an idea. Ladies and gentlemen, Carolyn Kineto.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad, for that lovely introduction. Shortly after we began our research at the library, I became acquainted through one paragraph in a big fat book. Let's start again when I start talking. Okay. Of a woman, there's a caricature, a little drawing of her. And I read this paragraph and I was smitten with her. Louise F. Rawlings, born 1884 in Forest area, became an entrepreneur. She started the Blue Moon Restaurant just a few doors down from here in 1926. Well, she had my attention. Back then, that wasn't something that was common. And so, together with Jessica, the books in the library, the museum, and the help of David McLean, and then talking to some of her relatives, descendants here, they helped me put some puzzle pieces together that we're going to share with you tonight. During the research process, I came across this quote that I'd like to share with you tonight. It's from a book written by Edward C. Snellman, who states this: "We inherit our ancestors' gifts, so often taken for granted. Our name, the colors of our eyes, the texture of our hair, the unfolding of varied abilities and interests in different subjects. Each of us contains within our fragile vessels of skin and bone and cells this inheritance of souls. We are links between the ages, continuing past and present expectations, sacred memories, and future promises. And only when we recognize that we are heirs can we truly be pioneers? Now, the pioneers we're going to present to you tonight may no longer exist, but let us not forget them, but remember them with affection and gratitude, even if some of them were scoundrels or swindlers or the odd duck. So sit back, relax, and let us take you back 100 years or so to the streets and the echoes of Forest Pass.
Eagles, yeah, that's it. Stars, the moon. Yeah, the sky opens up to them, doesn't it? Yeah. This place has really changed. I mean, this part was never here, was it? The original theater and the stage were that way, but the pictures are still here.
Hello there.
Fancy meeting you here, Mrs. Rawlings.
Yes, and I'm just trying to... Oh, it's George. George Harvey? Oh my goodness.
George W. Harvey, known in town as Bum Harvey.
Yes, I do remember you. But it's been a very, very long time. Amazing seeing you here.
I know, and you too. And what brought you here?
Well, you know, I usually go down to the restaurant that I used to own, but it's empty and has been for a long time. So I get lonely there. So I had this thought tonight to come to the Kineto Theater. I didn't know you would be here, but I just thought maybe coming in here would help me remember some of the things that went on in life back then. Do you know what I mean?
I do, and it's good to have you here.
Well, thank you.
And I would like to know, can you tell me when we first met? Do you know?
I do remember, George. It was when you first wandered into my restaurant. Do you remember?
I do.
I wasn't too sure about you. You were kind of shoddy looking, you were older, and I didn't think you'd be able to pay for your dinner. But you did. Do you remember what you had? I remember.
Liver and onions.
Liver and onions.
Every time.
Yes, you told mine.
I lived on liver.
Good for your liver, but you always were a bit of an odd duck. Never anyone else ate the same meal over and over and over. But I want to ask you, do you remember how much you paid for that meal?
50 cents.
Nope.
I do remember.
No.
It was 50 cents.
No, that was the tip. The meal you ate was liver and onions, which included potatoes, vegetables, butter, bread, milk, coffee, and dessert, and it cost you 30 cents. 30 cents! We had a phenomenal menu. Anything you wanted would be on that menu, if I remember correctly.
Big tipper.
You were a big tipper.
Not just one time either.
And your tip was more than the meal.
Yes. Yes, it was.
I remember it well.
But you know what I do remember? Coming into the Blue Moon and writing letters. You remember you had free stationery.
Yes.
And I would go in and I drew in my letters, of course, and I had little captions and I'd send them to my friends in Chile and I'd send them to England. I really appreciated having that.
Well, George, the reason we originally had that stationery there was for people to write to their soldiers overseas during the war. But I'm glad you made use of it.
Oh, I did. But I always wondered, you had a tea room out toward Kettle Point, Ipperwash way, did you not, on Lakeshore Road?
Yes.
And I always understood that was successful. Like, the Americans and tourists were always here, going to their cottages. It was busy, wasn't it? What made you want to start a restaurant in King Street?
Well, George, you might not remember this, but tragedy in our family. When Roy and I lived out on the lake shore, we had 6 children. The oldest, 2 of the oldest, died of measles in 1924. Charlie was 18 and Mildred was 14. It was very hard. It was very challenging. You know, we'd gotten them through babyhood and toddlerhood, and then they died as they were healthy teenagers. And I mean, my heart was broken. And being on the farm out there, it wasn't good for me. It was Alvin, my father-in-law's property, and so Roy and I decided to move into town, change of scenery, and we moved on to McNabb. And then my dream of always owning a full-fledged restaurant, it came to life.
Wow. And I remember that now that you say it. It was tragic. I can't even imagine myself what you must have gone through. But why Blue Moon? Why did you call it Blue Moon?
Well, that sort of had to do with the tragedy as well. I remember one night, it was brilliant and bright outside, and there was a full moon, and this was shortly after the children had died. And I thought, and I said to my husband, I should be filled with joy. It's a beautiful night, the moon is full, but I feel so blue. Roy looked at me and I looked at him, and that's how Blue Moon Restaurant was born. Honor our children. Thank you. Yes, thank you for asking.
It was a great restaurant.
It was a great restaurant. But now you need to remind me of where you live, because I don't really remember.
No. Well, I emigrated to Canada in 1890. I made my way to the streets of Forest, and I'll tell you, I fit in this town right away. See, I'm an artist. You knew that.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, and the town was really hopping then. It needed people like me. And you know who I ran into right off the bat? Tommy Rumford.
Oh my goodness, Tommy, what a man. I mean, everybody knew Tommy. You know, that big shock of white hair and his big personality.
I noticed, I walked through the theater before he came, his picture's on the door out front. Tommy Rumford. Tommy Rumford and his brothers opened this theater in 1917. There was Tommy, and there was Marty, and there was Floyd. Marty and Floyd were the projectionists. Tommy was the musician. You remember that? He was amazing. He accompanied silent movies with pianos and his friends, and they made all the sounds. And you know, they were good people. And, well, I was in need of a place in around the mid-1920s, and they offered for me to stay here, that little sloped, slanted apartment. And you know, I took them up on it. They said if I helped them with cleaning up and with some of the security around, that I could stay. So I did.
But did you not get lonely? I mean, this is a big empty place when nobody's here.
I loved it.
You did.
Absolutely loved it, empty days. But you see, it was busy 6 days a week, running movies every single day, live entertainment, traveling bands coming through here. It was alive. But then when everybody left, and the 3 Rumford boys, we'd lock the doors, clean up, and they were gone, well, I would walk down that aisle and sit in the front row seat. I mean, this place was mine, wasn't it? And I would close my eyes, and I could remember that motion picture show, and it played in my head, and I could see the plot, the drama unfolding, and I could feel all the people in their seats. It was magical. Then I opened my eyes. Everything was quiet. Not a sound. And then I would take the stage.
You would?
Yeah.
And what would you do?
Well, you saw me writing when I come in. Sometimes I write something, and this was my chance. You see, I had always wanted applause in my life, but I was bashful. You know that. But here, this was mine. And I got the applause I needed in this big empty room.
Well, you never heard applause.
Oh, I did?
You imagined it?
I guess. Is there anything wrong with that?
Oh, no, but real applause is much nicer.
True.
So George,
Yeah.
would you do something for me? Would you say one of those poems you wrote, or the stage is here, nobody else
That
is
one I
here?
was working on tonight, it's just
Well, it's just you and me. I'm not gonna judge you. I just think you've always wanted to have an audience, and tonight I'll be your audience.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. I'm just going to pretend I'm in the audience and sit right
And this is
here.
just what I would do. I could feel the audience when I was here. You know, we spoke about eagles, stars, moon. The sky opens up for them. Yes, it opens up wide, like the notes in a melody, like chaos below and serendipity above. Yes, the sun shines through them. The tailwinds follow their steps. They can transcend light to darkness, mountainous moments, the grace of flight. Our ancestry is up there with them. Our echoes of the past are up there with them. And then I might reach up and take a star and gently bring it down and bring it down into the outstretched hand of the woman I love. How was it? It was romantic too. You think it was romantic?
Well, I'm not much of a romantic at heart, but yes, it could be for the right woman.
Okay. Well, you know, it's what I said about applause. What about you? I know you worked hard and you always had the business going, but you played piano and you sang. You had it right there.
I did.
And I know at times you pushed it right out into the street and you played. Did you ever want to take a stage like this and hear that applause?
Well, George, I actually had stages. I don't know if you remember or not, but I had a 15-minute radio program on CHOK radio. Years and years ago. My darling son Ted, who fought in the Second World War, he paid for Louise Rawlings and the 8 Blue Notes to have a 15-minute radio show every Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, evening, and we had a show. It was called Just a Song at Twilight. I was so proud of that show. I mean, we loved doing it, and so there were 9 of us all together, and we sang harmonies and just a song at twilight. We wanted it to be calm songs, so we sang hymns and we sang soothing songs, and it was just, it was one of my most favorite things to do.
And CHOK radio.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything. And everybody crowded around.
Yeah.
Oh, 15 minutes every Sunday.
Yes, yes. It was.
Do you remember the song you closed with? You must remember the song you closed with.
Well, I do.
Maybe sing it. You sure?
It has been decades since I have sung a song. My voice will be over croaky.
It's just the two of us. There's nobody here. It's just you and I.
Well, I suppose I could, but don't judge me.
I won't judge you. I'll be right here.
Can I borrow some of your water?
Mhm.
Okay, so this was Ted, my son's, my darling son Ted's favorite hymn. So I'm singing it for him tonight. I come to the garden alone. What dew is fresh on the roses, and a voice I hear calling on my ear. The Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there
Did you hear it? Did you hear the applause?
Yes. Yes, George, I did. Thank you very much. But you know, I have to tell you one more thing that I did that was so different from that. Believe it or not, Louise Rawlings dressed up as a gypsy. And she put the scarves on her head, and the big skirts, very colorful, and the blouses, and the bangles. And people would have me come to their parties and events like that, and I would pretend, an important word, pretend, to read tea leaves and tell fortunes. Yes, I did. And I loved it. I just loved it, George. I just loved it.
You know, I was at one of those parties, but you were very spirited. I was kind of scared.
But I wasn't the spirit.
No, but I certainly felt you could tell my fortune. I wasn't going anywhere near you. You were better than you're giving yourself credit for. I'd have never known you were baking. I guess we are both artists.
Yes, in different ways we are. We are. Oh, you always had a paintbrush.
Yes,
Still do.
we both are. I know. This theater changed a little, hasn't it?
Yes, but you're eyeing those paintings. You
I
know
am.
something about those paintings that I don't remember?
Can I tell you?
I would love to hear it.
See this painting over here? See that? You know who painted that? Tommy Rumford. Yes, the piano player, the musician, the guy who played on the harmonic steamship,
You did
the
everything.
cruise line, the music director. He painted that. But you know who painted that?
I think you're going to tell me.
George W. Harvey.
Wow, George.
G.
I think yours,
W.H.
well, I think yours is better than Tommy's. I mean, I love the water. It shimmers, and you've got the detail and the reflection in. This is kind of bland. I think yours is, I like yours much better. And Tommy's not here to.
No. Do you notice anything similarities between the two?
Well, the palette is very similar, and you both the colors, and you both have mountains, but they're not quite the same, and you have different buildings. He has a bridge.
The angles are the same, and the palette. Yeah. What do you think?
I like them both. They look perfect right there.
Do you think I had any influence on the two of these?
Well, you're the artist, right? You were the professional. I don't remember Tommy being a professional painter.
I knew how to use scaffold.
Oh, that's
I knew the angles. I knew the colors. You
So-
see, Tommy and I were friends. We did these same time,
at the same time.
pretty much. Tommy'd come in from his busy day. Sometimes he'd go to practice at the piano. He'd take some time and he'd do it. But you know, there's something about this I'd like to show you. Can you see that? See that little white sailboat?
Yeah. Yes, I do. It's
Yeah.
very small.
Well, Tommy came in one day and he was doing something, and then he looked up at that and he said, George, he said, I think that's a great painting, but the sailboat, it doesn't seem to scale. It's too small for the body of water it's in. I said, Tommy, it's supposed to be. I said, Tommy, I feel small. We are all small. We are just a dot in this magnitude of time. That's what I said to him. And then I said, that boat is me. That boat is you. That boat is us. We are that boat. You are that boat. They are that boat.
But I think that Kineto inspired you both. You painted them in here.
Yes.
I think that Kineto inspired you and inspires.
But I have a vision.
You have a.
Yes. Probably from one of your sessions where you were. But I have a vision that the Kineto will continue to inspire artists for generations to come. Don't you?
Let's hope so.
Oh,
But do you remember the shows? Oh my goodness, the shows, they're coming back to me standing here. We had, well, the silent action movies with the live bands, and then we had, talkies. And we had other bands. The Excelsior band played here. And they had minstrel shows every once in a while. We had the Glee Club. We had church choir. St. Andrew's Presbyterian, my church. I sang in the choir on this stage. glee clubs, high school graduations,
Yep.
and kept this place.
And remember before that, the Rumford's father,
Floyd.
yes, he started this home back in the early 1900s. Remember, they backed that car up and they jacked the back end up and they'd use the back tires to turn the generator and run that Kineto brass projector? You remember it?
I remember now that you remind me.
It was portable.
Yeah, and so is the stage. They do a makeshift big sheet, put it up, and it
Ipperwash Beach.
barnyards, fields.
Yes.
Yeah, they did it.
That's where it all started. And that's where the name of this building came from.
It was so exciting. But you know what I liked best of all about those nights was the before and after. Because before movies, people would come over to the Blue Moon and they would eat dinner and they were happy and looking forward to the shows. And I was in my element. I'd play and I'd sing and they'd eat and they'd leave big tips because they were in good moods. And then afterwards, we stayed open because they'd come back for dessert. Our Sundays, did you ever have one of them? Or the
One and
ice
one.
cream, the milkshakes.
After
It
my
was-
liver and onion.
It was.
Yeah.
After
But
my-
I couldn't go over there because I was security here.
Oh,
I had to bounce
that's-
sometimes, right?
It was the best of times.
Remember that Welsh dance?
No, I don't.
It was the best of times. I've got another question for you. Do you remember the first talking movie? You're talking silent. Do you remember the first talking movie? 1931. The Jazz Singer.
I'm sorry, but I had a hard time with talkies. You know, when we did the action movies, we had the live bands, and people in the audience would interact with the dialogue on the screen and with each other, and it was a great mood, and people were so excited. And
They were
then-
anything but silent, weren't
They
they?
were, and then when the talkies came along and the dialogue was spoken, it was so quiet. And we didn't have the live band anymore, and I think we missed it.
I think so too.
But it was still a wonderful time to be alive.
Wasn't it a wonderful time to be alive?
It sure was. It sure was.
Oh, you know. Louise, you were very strong. You were an entrepreneur. And you shared your gift freely with others. You were a very beautiful person.
Well, thank you, George. And you know, you're not so bad yourself for a bum. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you ever regret not marrying?
The answer is no. I love, and I was loved. But life plays out. And this was my life, and I was in the right place at the right time.
When did you die, George?
Well, it was 1941. I was 81 years old. And you know what? If you go to the cemetery, the Beechwood Cemetery here in Forest, you'll find in the grass a little stone. It says George W. Harvey, 1860 to 1941. And do you know how happy that makes me? Because I made this my home. I had traveled the world, but I found what was here for me in this building, in this town. And I remember.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, George.
Now, what about you? What happened with you after you?
Well, you lived to a ripe old age. When Ted came back from the war, he married Vera, and they took over the restaurant. And they were so enthusiastic and energetic, and they had all grand plans to expand. And I was ready after 20, 25 years to let them do that. So I went home and I started a baking business out of my house on McNabb Street. And I would bake for whoever would pay me to do so. And I did that for a few years until I got sick. And I was sick for a few years, and then on June the 3rd, 1952, I passed away from stomach cancer. But I'm buried over in Beechwood Cemetery too, probably not far from where you are, with Alvin, my father-in-law, with his big stone, and then all the rest of us around him. It's a lovely place, that cemetery.
And you know, you lived life big.
Oh,
You did.
I have a proposition proposition for you.
You do. I like propositions.
How about we take a stroll down King Street and see if we can bump into any of our other old friends. You know, this is the time of night that we find each other wandering the streets of King County.
I think that's a great proposition. I accept.